This week, the calendar is turned to 2024, and there are some big fights to be made in boxing. Greg Bishop and I make our predictions on which fights are coming and which ones we are dreaming are on the way. That's this week on The Knockdown. Welcome to The Knockdown. I'm Chris Mannix. He's Greg Bishop. And Greg, today we are going to talk about the biggest fights we can see in 2024. We're going to look at it from two vantage points. One, fights that we actually think can get made in 2024. And then there's another category of fights that we want to see made, but maybe aren't quite so optimistic about. So let's start with you first. The biggest fight that you believe we're going to see this year is what?
It's a great question. I think the momentum of 2023 plays into this. You know, there were a lot of great fights that set up a lot of divisions, in my opinion, as potential destinations where more super fights can occur, and in some cases, maybe more than one. And the reason I like this particular fight is that it's two of the best fighters in the world. You have Gervonta Tank Davis and you have Devin Haney. And not only are they in and around the same weight divisions, but I think stylistically it's very interesting, right? Like Tank has a lot of power. Haney obviously is an elite mover. I think they're both pretty skilled technicians, both pretty good with strategy. And I just think that there could be something really weird that comes out of that matchup. You know, you don't know if it'll be a brawl. You don't know if it'll be like no brawling. To me, it's two really elite guys that could lead each other into interesting places.
Yeah, I like that fight a lot. And I'll tell you why it's realistic. Devin Haney right now is in conversations to face Ryan Garcia at some point in, let's say, the first half of 2024. That's a big fight for Devin Haney. And more importantly, that is a marketable fight. Ryan Garcia, of course, just did a big number on pay-per-view against Gervonta Davis last year. If Devin Haney can beat Ryan Garcia in a mega fight, that would increase his popularity. I think make him more marketable for Gervonta Davis to want to fight him in the second half next year. So I like that fight. But the big fight for me is Tyson Fury against Anthony Joshua. And this is a fight that we have been talking about for several years now. Really since Tyson Fury came back onto the boxing scene a few years ago. These two have circled around each other. There have been some stops and starts. There was even a signed agreement a couple of years ago for them to fight for the Deontay Wilder third fight came into play, and everything went haywire after that. Right now, I think this fight is in the best place it has been in since that fight with them got scuttled a couple of years ago, because Anthony Joshua is coming off a 3-win 2023, capped off with that knockout win over Otto Wallen. Tyson Fury is set to face Alexander Usyk in February. Now, that is being billed as a 2-fight agreement between these two guys. But if Tyson Fury wins this fight decisively, I don't know what the appetite is going to be for that second fight. Everybody knows the Saudis, they're the ones bankrolling all this. So if Saudi Arabia says, you know what, we don't want to see a rematch between Fury and Usyk, we want to see Fury and Anthony Joshua, that's the fight that's going to happen. So we might be one fight away from both guys, one win away for both guys, to finally seeing Fury and Joshua get it on in the ring.
No, I love that. And it's actually one I hadn't considered, because for me, it had almost gone off the table with events of recent years. But you're absolutely right, Chris, which pains me to admit. The events of the last few months have been lining that up perfectly. Like AJ looked great the other day. Fury came into the celebrity fight not in great shape, and you could argue he didn't even win. And I think that puts these guys back in a place where they're both vulnerable, both skilled, and the draw for that would be amazing. So I guess we should revive that one as not only a potential fight, but maybe the potential fight we want to see.
We got to get one big heavyweight fight. Not to say that Usyk and Fury isn't a big fight. It's an incredibly meaningful fight because it will crown the undisputed champion in the heavyweight division. But I don't think anyone would argue that Fury and AJ, just like AJ and Deontay Wilder before the Wilder loss to Joseph Parker, is an event, and a mega event at that. So hopefully we get that in the first half of this year. So now let's talk about fantasy fights. Stuff that we want to see but aren't entirely convinced is going to happen this year.
Yeah, I could go a couple ways with this. I mean, you could do a Canelo, Terence Crawford, which is enticing, but maybe doesn't work logistically, even just at their weights. You could think of this new landscape of celebrity boxing events and what might fit well within there. But I actually have one that hits a little closer to home. I think that the best fantasy fight that could be made in boxing in 2024 is to pit Jake Paul against one of his chief critics. somebody who says this guy can't box, he doesn't know anything about boxing. And I think that he lands somewhere in the middle. You know, I wouldn't say he's like a pro, like going to win a world title, but I think he's a level above what people have given him credit for. And I think it would be interesting to see him push one of those folks around. I would just say it obviously can't be me because I'm too dainty, and I'd suggest you maybe, but you're not really a critic of Jake Paul's, but at least you have in-ring experience.
I've got some very, very low level in-ring experience, but I get the perfect guy for you. A guy that I've been lobbying for a Jake Paul fight for the last couple of years, and that is my broadcast partner, Sergio Mora, who has been the chief Jake Paul critic since Jake got into boxing. Yes, Sergio is a former world champion, but he was a world champion back when, like, TV still had antennas on them. He's in his mid-40s now. He knows he can't go more than like 6 rounds in a fight. He's been knocked down before by opponents. He will make for a great press tour because he will talk and talk and talk. There's a possibility he could win if he can stay on his feet for 6, 7, 8 rounds. There's also the possibility he can get knocked out because Jake Paul is going to come into the ring a lot bigger than Sergio Mora. So you've got Jake Paul, the new star of today's version of reality TV, and you've got Sergio Mora, the old star of reality TV, the former contender winner. Jake Paul, Sergio Mora, that is a great fantasy fight for 2023. Mine, though, is a little bit more on the realistic side because I think it could happen within the next 2 years, but I don't think it happens next year. This is something I talked about on the show a couple of weeks ago, and that is Naoya Inoue against Bam Rodriguez. I am obsessed, Greg, with making this fight happen because I think it is one of the biggest fights you can make in these lower weight classes. You've got Inoue, who is now fully crowned as the 122-pound champion. Knocked out, beat down Marlon Tapales. A great performance, a fighter of the year caliber year for Naoya Inoue. Then you got Bam Rodriguez, who just became a 2-division world champion, dropping down in weight to beat Sonny Edwards in the same month. Right now, I know they've got 10 pounds between them, and that seems like a lot. But Bam Rodriguez's next fight is going to be at 115 pounds. 2 fights from now, he could fight at 118 pounds. Inoue's team has already said he's staying at 122 for the foreseeable future. Could fight as many as 3 times at 122 in this calendar year. Why not make that third fight against Bam Rodriguez? It would take Bam Rodriguez fighting at 115 in, say, March or April, then 118 in July or August, and then you get to the end of the year, and there's only 4 pounds between them. I'd love to see it. It's a big fight. Don't say Bam Rodriguez is completely overmatched. He is one of the most skilled guys, a pound-for-pound guy. That would pit 2 top 10 pound-for-pound fighters against each other. I would love to see it.